Thanks for your support as a channel member, Justin Inakaitis. Oscar Piastri took a commanding victory at the Bahrain Grand Prix, but Lando Norris recovered from 6th to 3rd to hang on to the championship lead. However, Lando definitely needs to be more aggressive in combat. Hello folks and welcome to another race reaction here on the channel. We're looking back at the 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix, won in brilliant fashion by Australia's Oscar Piastri. He took pole position on Saturday and, well, he didn't completely cruise. He was under pressure, I suppose, from Russell and some of the others at some points, but he was never really out of control of this race. He had it all in the palm of his hand, and when he needed to deploy the speed, he did. And he won by 15.4 seconds in the end from George Russell. An excellent drive from Oscar Piastri. He showed in China that when he gets out in front with this car, he is very difficult to beat. And I think, we're just seeing this class act come together and sort of gel and mature. There are a few things that Oscar needed to do better for this season to be a true title contender, and at the moment he is doing them, and he's only 3 points off the title lead, which is still held by his teammate Lando Norris, who had a bit of, in his words, a messy race. And let's go through it with Lando. So there's some criticism of Lando, and I don't quite understand it. Look, he's not going to win by 30 seconds every week just because the McLaren is the fastest car. The other guy, as you can see today, is very good. It's just not possible to win by 30 seconds like that when you've got two drivers of high quality. But he needs to minimise these errors. First of all, the being out of position on the grid. That's a fundamental error. He needs to be more attentive there. And okay, 5 seconds, essentially he did recover it because he didn't lose a position from where he ended up after the start. He made the ground up at turn 1, ran 3rd in the early laps behind Russell, but had he not had that penalty, he would have been able to jump Russell and maybe get after Piastri and challenge for the win. So in that sense, yes, he has lost out. But would he have been able to catch Piastri? I don't think so. I think Piastri is just on another level to everybody else this weekend, and that happens. He was at one with the car, and he was driving very well. Very difficult to beat a driver and car combination like that. But when push came to shove, Lando needed to be more aggressive with his overtakes, and when he was, it paid off. He got sort of shoved off the track by Charles Leclerc. I didn't really agree with it. I just don't agree with being able to force someone off the track on the exit of a corner when they're alongside simply because you were ahead at the apex. It's a story we've covered quite a lot. The rules are stupid. They need to be rewritten to allow cars to be side by side, because you can do it on the exit of turn 4. You can leave space and retain the position. We've seen it before. But Norris needs to be much more assertive with how he overtakes. He spent far too long behind Charles Leclerc, and I know it's difficult to follow, but he does have the best car and he needs to make the most of that. He needs to find a way to access its potential in the same way that Piastri did this weekend. And even then, he needs to sort of grab it by the scruff of the neck and drive the issue. I think he was a bit too passive at times. I also think there's an element of he doesn't want to make too many errors right now, and he's kind of just tensing up a little bit in that sense. And it's not quite getting away from him, but he could definitely drive with a little bit more freedom, I suppose. He tried to get past Russell, but I think because he'd spent so long behind Leclerc, he didn't have enough time to sort of sort himself out against Russell and set that one up. But still, 6th to 3rd, decent recovery, hangs on to the championship lead, so I suppose that's something for Lando to be happy about. Credit to George Russell, splitting the McLarens in, well, he was 2nd on the grid before the one-place grid drop, then splitting the McLarens in the Grand Prix as well, despite a whole raft of technical failures within the car that needed overrides and all sorts. So we'll wait and see what happens with that, because he did open DRS when he wasn't supposed to. I have seen it happen before with Fernando Alonso in China. I think it was maybe 2011 or maybe 2012. Nothing got done on that occasion, so we'll wait and see what the outcome of that is. Norris might yet be promoted to 2nd. Who knows? Let's talk about Ferrari, because at one point they looked like they were on a blinder of a strategy. Then they put the hard tyres on, and that was probably the wrong thing to do. I don't know whether Russell's loss of pace towards the end was because the softs were wearing out or he was just fighting all those issues. It could have been a combination of both. But had Ferrari put the soft tyres on, probably was the better option. The hards never really seemed to come alive this weekend in a way that we've seen before around Bahrain. But still, 4th and 5th, they'd have taken that, I suppose, considering Mercedes looked quicker, McLaren were definitely quicker, so to beat the Red Bull of Verstappen and the other Mercedes of Antonelli, which could easily have been ahead of both cars in red, then I think they'll take that, lick their wounds, move on, assess the upgrades, and be better prepared for Saudi Arabia next week. Max Verstappen, the world champion, finished in 6th. He overtook Pierre Gasly on the final lap. Let's credit Pierre Gasly for a brilliant weekend. Not only has he delivered Alpine's first points of the season, but qualified an astonishing P5, wasn't it? P5, and then promoted to P4 because Antonelli got a one-place drop, the same as George Russell. Quality driving this weekend from the Gazman, and yeah, honestly, he deserves another shot at a top team, I think. I think he's one of those discarded Red Bull drivers that's gone away, similar to Alex Albon, reinvented himself, and is now ready to be in a top team again. But we'll see. Maybe Alpine will cook up something brilliant for 2026 and he can get his shot at the front again, but I'm not sure. Maybe that Red Bull experience has put some teams off of him. But there's also a lot of talent knocking around at the front of the grid. It's very difficult to get in there. Double points for Haas, which was great for them considering they looked in trouble at the start of the season, and now they're picking up points almost every week, which is great. Oliver Behrman, P last to 10th. Clap it up, everyone. Oliver Behrman. I'm gonna just go now. My driver of the day. I know Lewis Hamilton got the vote, and he did a great job. And normally I'm critical of, just give it to the driver who got the most positions gained. But Oliver Behrman, P last to P10. That is a solid effort. That is quality driving indeed. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining me. I'm going to wrap this up with my race rating. We had a much more exciting race today than we did in Japan because 3 DRS zones, always useful. Big long straight, braking zones, switchbacks, and it just works. So we saw lots of good action, and the tyre situation, strategy was good. A real variance. Ferrari doing something completely different. Were they a classic Ferrari? But actually, sort of around lap 20, 23, they were the fastest cars on track, and they looked pretty good by that point. Maybe they should have stuck the softs on, but who knows? Maybe that would have fallen apart on their car. Maybe that's why they went with the hard. But they still come away 4th and 5th. So what would I rate the race? I'd give it 7.5 out of 10. I think there was plenty of action all the way through the field. We had some contact, we had a safety car. Only thing it lacked was a true battle for the win. It would have been nice to see Norris and Piastri have their Hamilton-Rosberg moment around Bahrain from 2014, but you can't have everything. But I'm sure they will go head-to-head at some point this season, and they have to. It's almost inevitable. Norris will get a pole position he probably shouldn't. Piastri will make a mistake and start second, and then he'll have to try and pass him. What happens then? How far are they ahead in the championship? Does that open the door for Verstappen? Or even George Russell, who's been super consistent so far this season. 3 podiums for George Russell is a very, very good return. So yeah, I'd give this race a 7.5 out of 10. Let me know what you'd give it. And I will see you next week after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which should be lots of fun. So yes, I will see you then. And remember, be fast or be last. You're the best, fans. Bye for now.